Okay, question.
Yeah.
You've done that.
Yep.
Say I inscribe one.
Sure.
Which is the one?
It's whatever value you want to assign to it. I would assume from a provenance perspective, one coming from you would be, it's all a shared hallucination, right? It's subjective value. We've left the world of objective Bitcoin transactions to this aesthetic taste, and which I think is one of the most exciting things in this Ordinal project, that you're now on the Bitcoin playground. You're at my house now. So one, you have to use Bitcoin transactions to make this whole thing work. Two, I think what we're seeing initially with all of these like kind of copy paste JPEGs over from the Ethereum projects is just the first move, because it's just the easiest thing to do. I think it's a way to have Bitcoin culture and aesthetics as part of the art. And I think that's just very early days in understanding what that's ultimately going to mean and look like. And so yours would probably be worth a good amount because, relative to some sort of collector, I'm not a collector. I've actually have made a bunch of inscriptions for people making requests for me to make them for them because they knew I could do it. I haven't made one for myself yet.
Yeah, I mean, I still have zero interest in
I think
NFTs.
this one, though, inscription number 6, what is it? If you scroll up a little bit there.
6 bazillion.
69,971. That is the one that was on the What Bitcoin Did show. So that has provenance. That's yours. I gave it to you at this time and place. It has some sort of relative timestamp. If you make one, it'll be inscription number 110,000 or something.
So there's two.
Point.
There's like which came first, but also who did it. Yeah. So like if I ignored yours and did one, someone's more likely to buy mine.
Sure. But I'm also not even selling. I just gave it to you, right? Yeah. Like you have it now on that SATS
you
card.
You could have sold it to me.
Why would I?
Because that'd give me like 6 Bitcoin for it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. But this is...
No, and I could see, look, do you know what? I could put every player in our team on there and I could sell them and that would raise money for the team. Like I see these things. I still don't understand why people buy them beyond thinking they can flip them.
I'm personally not an art collector. I couldn't tell you. Like my wife's here, she can tell you that I'm not collecting art. I'm not buying art. I don't have the visual aesthetic lens for all of that stuff. I'm much more on the technical side. It really, I guess, value is in the eye of the beholder and understanding, right? Like maybe Jason's monkey that he teleburned from Ethereum to Bitcoin. Maybe, as a first, like that means something, right? Maybe, the first inscription, like Casey's inscription, worth a lot because it was the original one. The dick butt is the second inscription ever made. It was the first person that made one that wasn't Casey, like you just said before, like, being listed now for 50 Bitcoin. And like, these are all, I think it's very entirely possible. There's like a immediate craze because of all of the NFT JPEG people coming over and plowing their capital and trying to play around in these markets. And this very well could fizzle out. It could.
Do you think there's any link between the price run up recently and this, or do you think it's completely independent? Is there any reason to say...
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because we had a run up yesterday.
I think the global markets are too complicated to assign it to this stuff specifically. Possible, sure. If you had some whale that was like, I'm now more bullish on Bitcoin because of this use case, sure. But like a market is made up of, millions and millions of participants in Bitcoin that are buying and selling. It's hard to say like, this is the reason why.
How are the ETH people responding to this?
I think they like the opportunity, but then when people do stuff like the teleburn, they view it as an attack on the Ethereum network because they're destroying the asset on the ETH side and they're moving it over to the Bitcoin side.
I mean, that's kind of what I'm asking about. Are they seeing this as more of a threat? Are they seeing, because there's more value to holding it on Bitcoin than is on Ethereum.
Well, I think it's pretty objective in that, the data permanence of this is not up for debate. Yeah. Whereas, ROEV goes down, IPFS goes down. It's not really, you have much more resiliency of it. And I think a lot of the attention to value is because now this is on Bitcoin and people in Bitcoin find this interesting, which is a much larger capital base than Ethereum, right? Yeah. It's like, double the size. Maybe not all of the actors that are using Bitcoin for this stuff care about this stuff, but I think Bitcoin has legitimacy in anyone who's involved in cryptocurrency as the gold standard. It is the best blockchain that exists. And the fact this now exists here has a lot of people trying to chase and trying to understand and play in that space.
What do you think, Danny?
I'm firmly on the couldn't really give a shit either way. And the point really for me is that what are you going to do about it anyway? So
that's my take.
Well, so then I would want to speak to somebody who knows something can be done. Said, though, this is what you could do.
Well, what you could do is you could do a fork.
Yeah, but like I'm saying, it's like what are the steps for that? How do you build consensus? Is there like
there is no rule book. This is the thing about Bitcoin, and like why even something like Taproot, which everyone cryptographically believed like this is a good thing to do. There was a whole meta debate on how do you even activate it, because there is no set attack path. Like there's no because people view it as an attack. The idea if you're changing Bitcoin, American HODL's had this metaphor. Have you ever seen Independence Day when the mothership opens up its door?
Yeah,
the mothership opens up its door, and that's when it's vulnerable. When you're changing the rules of Bitcoin, that's when it's most vulnerable on this technical consensus layer. So there is no set like, oh well, you get 10,000 signatures and then you do a BIP, and then like. There is no rules.
Who was that Romanian Bitcoin who drowned?
Oh, I can't remember his name. He was a bit of a lunatic.
Yeah.
Murray Pepskew?
Yeah. Didn't he still run like version 1 of the software, and he hated
Something
every
like that.
version since?
Yeah.
Well, who was it telling me about? You were telling me about Luke Dash's version of Bitcoin Core.
Oh, Bitcoin Knots?
Oh, yeah,
Do you know about
it.
this?
Yeah.
But this is basically the same thing. He's taken every conservative option throughout. But he's still running the Bitcoin protocol.
Yeah, so Bitcoin Knots censors Satoshi Dice transactions.
Interesting.
Right, so people could run these implementations. Here's the problem though. You could maybe on the peer-to-peer, like I have a new transaction I want to send, and you want to censor that. But if it's in a block, you have to accept it. Otherwise you break consensus. So you can try and have soft social pressures, but if it gets into a block, it's you have to accept it or you have to fork off.
Who are the anti people? Is it, I'm going to guess, it's going to be Pierre Rochard, Adam Back, Francis Poulier, Luke Dasher. Not sure on Odell. I've not seen him talk about it, but I can imagine he
did Citadel Dispatch, and he was kind of poking around. I think initially everyone had the healthy reaction of what the heck is going on here? And this could is this an attack on Bitcoin? I think I've seen Pierre and I've seen others say like we're now in an evaluation phase because it's they're not looking to fork right now.
Yeah.
But they're collecting data. Like Pierre does really great like infographics and charts talking about here's how much transaction fees and the mempool is related to ordinal stuff versus normal transactions. Because you don't want to hastily make another change and then find out that you made an even bigger problem.
Yeah, I think the wait and see is actually a good point.
It is the way to do it.
Have you seen Dylan Leclerc put out a really good tweet?
Let me pull it up.
Yeah, when he was talking about block space usage. And
yeah. I've been also running my own analytics of just looking at the mempool, the unconfirmed transactions, and seeing out of the low fee ones, like over half of them are these ordinal inscriptions.
So we should admit, like people who are pro this should admit they were never really anti-NFT. They were just anti-Ethereum.
Yeah, this is platform maximalism versus monetary maximalism. If you believe Bitcoin is the best platform, everyone should be on Bitcoin, but they're all part of the Bitcoin camp. They all run the Bitcoin code and they're all consensus with each other.
It's hard to disagree. These are very interesting charts from Dylan.
Taproot usage now is like what, 15% when it was maybe 1%. Yeah, it was under 1%, a month ago.
Yeah.
I mean, that was that funny Eric Wall tweet. His 2023 predictions was Taproot adoption would like double to like 2%. He was being glib, and now it's 15% a month later.
Suck it up, Eric. But Eric would like this. I know Eric.
Well, yeah, no, Eric's having, it's part of that irreverent fun. And I think you have to openly acknowledge a lot of this too is just trolling a lot of people.
Yeah, I've seen Udo do it.
Yeah.
With his Bitcoin wizards.
The Taproot wizards.
Taproot wizards. Kind of funny. Yeah, no, that's the other thing. It is kind of funny. It's fun. Going back to thing, like a standard army destroys itself. Let's have some fun. We've got nothing to fight over. Let's have some fun. Let's enjoy it. I am, like I say, if you've got anti here, pro here, and you got the middle line, and just on the anti, but not so much want to do anything about it, I want to observe. I think my concern's pretty clear.
Mm-hmm. I think Bitcoin is resilient and it's handling this new influx of new transaction types and use cases, and the network hasn't broken. So first off, the software right now is still functioning. This hasn't broken Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I think the responsible thing to do is collect data, give it a year, see because if this is a flash in the pan, then there's a whole hullabaloo changing code over nothing. So give it some time to see the permanence of this. If this actually isn't a fad, if it's actually going to be an enduring element of Bitcoin, you then can have time to walk through and think about what are the right things to do to change that.
Yeah.
I personally think it's going to be a block size decrease because the last thing you want to do is say, oh, we're going to censor ordinal transactions. Because what you're going to do then, it's a cat and mouse game. You're just going to change what it looks like and you're still going to be able to get it anyway. Yeah. And this is, Casey put a lot of thought into making this as minimally invasive as possible. Like it doesn't bloat the UTXO set, which is something that's more of a tight constraint than block space because the UTXO set, all of the unspent transactions that exist in Bitcoin have to sit in local memory. So you can't, if I said, like, because what people used to do in 2012 or even earlier, they used to do just random public keys and just like garbage like transactions to represent data. And then that pollutes that permanently. So for someone who did that stuff back in 2012, that can never leave local memory, which is much more scarce than hard drive space.
Fair.
Yeah. So like I think it's a wait and see approach to understand, is this a flash in the pan? If it continues to grow in adoption, I think at least for the next 6 months to a year, this is going to be ripping for a while. I think a lot of people are entering and playing around with this stuff, but we should be really careful before we make a consensus change. And if it comes down to a consensus change of decreasing the block size, I'm here for it. I want smaller blocks. Like Rodolfo talks about this, where if you can get to 300 kilobyte blocks, you could do all of your block relay over AM radio. If you could do it all over AM radio, you don't have to worry about if the internet goes down. You can start broadcasting blocks to everyone, and it makes it much more resilient. Like that's the ultimate side I want to be on, is as this decentralized technology being able to survive and be resilient. That's my top priority. I then also live in a world of this exists and I can't change it, and I'm not going to fork off my coins to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't fork off. Like I come down to what will be, but I think it's worth debating.
Sure. I think this is starting an interesting conversation. The mempool may never empty again. It's possible it will. At the moment, it just becomes so cheap to send these, like at 1 sat per VByte, you can just send such large amounts of data that someone now is going to use it for a use case always. Like someone's going to find a way, whether it's putting photos of their dog, if it's going to be, you've seen the OpReturn bot on Twitter. So there's a bot. So OpReturn, just very quickly, you can actually put arbitrary text into a Bitcoin transaction. It doesn't actually.
Oh yeah. So this is where like they know there's a certain block and they celebrate and they put a. Yeah,
they're like, or it's my wedding day, right? Like they'll do a little message, right? This is just the higher scale version of that. Right. Instead of using 40 characters or 80 characters, you're now using full images or scripts or text. Like people have put games onto Bitcoin, like Zork, which was one from like the 1980s. It was like a text RPG, like go north, pick up sword.
Yeah.
It's now like it's there. It's one of the inscriptions is just the JavaScript code running Zork.
I think they did Doom as well.
Yeah, Doom. Yeah, Doom.
I'm old enough that they were the games I played when I was a kid.
Yeah.
They literally were.
Man, you are old.